Hello. I'm going to do a little walkthrough of this guitar that I made and tell you about it. It's a pretty wild thing. I made this last year, and I finished in 2023, but then I kind of redid a lot of it and fixed some things on it. So it's finally finished, and I'm going to put it up for sale, and I just wanted to talk about it. So the original inspiration from this guitar was from a Gary Southwell guitar, who is a luthier in England, who did a classical guitar with this sort of a cutaway and had a headstock that was sort of this asymmetrical shape. Roughly, it was he makes mostly six-string guitars, as far as I know. It had a round sound hole and a more traditional bridge, but that guitar really sparked my interest, and you definitely see the similarities. I definitely took some ideas from that guitar. And there's a lot of asymmetrical stuff in that guitar, and I kind of just tried to add as much asymmetry into this guitar as I could. This guitar was kind of an experiment to see if I could just do it, I guess, and sort of just to see how creative I could be with the guitar. And I winged it a lot, but most everything, I mean, it works really well as an instrument. And I could trim that, but it works really well as an instrument. It's a little bit idiosyncratic in certain ways, but it plays really well, and it actually sounds great. So anyway, let me just tell you a little bit about this guitar. Has my structured sides, not mine. That's basically what I always use now. So the sides are about that thick, about 8 millimeters thick. They're extremely rigid, so the sides basically are their own structural assembly, and the top and back get glued to them, and it makes it kind of like almost like a snare drum. It's like two membranous heads of varying stiffness on one extremely rigid body. So the back in this guitar doesn't move a lot, but the top is free to kind of do what it wants to do because the sides are so rigid. And because the sides are rigid, they also drive a lot of that top energy back into the top. Basically, it's sort of a reflection. So when the vibrations reach the sides, because the sides don't vibrate, the vibration kind of stays in the top, and that creates a more powerful sound because there's more vibration in the top. So that's one thing. The guitar is lattice braced. It's slightly wider than I guess than maybe is traditional, although lattice is more modern than traditional. But there's lattice bracing inside, and then it has sort of the Trevor Gore live back. So the back is sort of influential in the sound. It's not super live, but it's live. It's my label in there. The wood is really wild. This is Pau Rosa, which is I don't know. I had it sitting around for a while, and I used it, and it is crazy looking. It's beautiful. It's a sort of reddish tin. There's some Paduke in the binding. The binding is maple. The neck is American cherry. The fingerboard is a really wild piece of koa that I had. I really just tried to put as many cool woods in this guitar as I could. The headstock is also Paduke. It has this V-joint in it, and then the head plate is Indian rosewood, and then there is also a ebony wedge on the back. So bridge is Paduke. I think that little strip is olive wood. So it's a 7-string guitar. It's a multi-scale, and I believe it's 660, 640 with a 7th fret that's parallel. Bridge is obviously slanted. So it's a pretty radical multi-scale, but it's a pretty playable instrument. I'm not a great 7-string player, so it's hard for me to demo this guitar, but it is. I don't find it to be particularly hard to play, other than it's a 7-string, and I sometimes get confused where the notes are. Some people I've had, I think Fareed Haq picked this guitar up in Chicago, and he was able to just rip on it. So if you're a genius, you can probably just rip on it. It has my adjustable neck design, which is the Greg Smallman kind of version. So there's the Allen wrench on there, or Allen bolt on there, and that you can kind of see it right there, but that pushes up against the top, so the neck can rotate back and forth in a little slot that's right there. And so the action is adjustable from basically 0 to however high you'd want it. And the neck does come off. This guitar is a little bit of a challenge to string just because this crazy headstock, once you get the strings on there, you're not going to want to take them off. So I would probably, I'm not going to advertise this as like a travel guitar where you can pop the neck off easily. It's, yeah, once the strings are on, you kind of want to leave them on. So that, you know, it's an adjustable neck, but I wouldn't sort of, in the future, my other guitars are sort of billed as travel guitars because they're easy to take apart, but this guitar, you kind of want to leave the strings on, leave the neck on. I mean, you couldn't, but it's very easy. If you take the strings off, the neck will come right out. I do love this neck joint. I think it works really good. It's got this gigantic oval sound hole, and that was just sort of an experiment to see how that would work. I think it looks really cool. The bridge is also oval, so there's a lot of oval and curve shapes in there. What else to talk about with this guitar? It's good. This neck feels really beautiful. So the finish I just did is, I call it the Ken Parker finish, which if you know Ken Parker, he demonstrates this online. It's hand rubbed epoxy, and then true oil is what we use, but it's, so you basically rub in a layer of epoxy and then you put oil layers over that, and this guitar has 9 layers of hand rubbed oil, and it's a really beautiful finish. It's hard to see. I'm not rubbing this out to like a high gloss, but it's very it's, I would say, beautiful satin. There's a little bit of grain to the wood that you can see. I filled it, but there's still some left, and so it's not like it's not a mirror, but it's very very beautiful. I think it's just a natural finish, and the neck just feels great. It's super smooth. It's all been sanded to like 1200 grit, so everything is smooth. The guitar sounds really good. When I built it, it was a little bit tighter than I wanted, and I just refinished it because it was originally French polished, and for various reasons I refinished it, and it actually, I think taking off just enough, the sanding that I did just took off enough to really make this guitar pop. Totally out of tune, but it's really cool to have this low B string, and it sounds really good. The high E string sounds great. I'm really pleased with it. It's changed quite a bit since I refinished it. So this is that. I mean, there's not too much more to say about this guitar, I guess. The nut is ebony, which is the first time I ever did that, but it seems to work really good on a classical. I probably wouldn't do that on a steel string, but it's got the Venetian cutaway, or Florentine, I can never remember. Neck heel is quite large, it feels good. And I was going to just if somebody's interested in buying this, I want to just be clear about a couple things with this guitar, because it was an experimental guitar, and I tried to do a bunch of different stuff I hadn't done before, stuff that's pretty rare to do. A couple things about it: it's also been at shows and stuff, so there's some dings on the fingerboard. Finish-wise, I really am loving this finish, but it's been refinished 3 times just in my kind of refining of this guitar. So it's not like if you want a mirror finish guitar, this is not your guitar. But if you want a guitar that looks like that, it's the only guitar that looks like that I know about. So you know, it is what it is, but I think it's super cool. I'm just going to point out a couple defects though, just so everybody's fully on page. I did have a little wound there on the guitar, and I filled that in with some spruce, but it is vaguely visible. There are some marks on the fingerboard from just refinishing it and different fretting things. I've kind of like sort of refined this guitar, and in the process I sort of worked the fingerboard a little bit hard, and to be honest, I was learning a lot as I made this guitar, and yeah. So, and the other thing is, which annoys me, is the butt block. My joinery there was not particularly wonderful, so there's a little funkiness in the bend there, in the end there. So just, if you are very particular about that stuff, I'd just like you to know ahead of time. Other than that, the only other thing I feel like, you know, in the experimental process that is annoying is that just the stringing is difficult. This one tuning machine for the D string is quite far removed from the body, it's quite a stretch. So you need a longer string. I used it to Dario's, and that was totally long, but it can be annoying to get these strings to sit. These are Derjong single machines, and you can see they're all coming at an angle. Totally stays in tune, totally works, but just getting to the strings to stay on, it's kind of annoying. So I oftentimes, for the the smaller strings, I double this, I put the string through and then I take it around and I put it through the hole again, and that seems to really hold the string on. But it works great. It's just a little bit of a frig to, this string is kind of annoying to string up. It's not a huge problem, but that's it. Yeah, so I think it's just like, I'm very proud of this guitar. I think it's super cool, very unique looking. I thought maybe I invented this kind of whole thing, and then I saw like a million John Monteleone guitars have it. Oh yeah, one other thing. The E string, I kind of made a mistake with the bridge. I didn't really calculate that the bridge angle was gonna push the string that way. So I tilted the neck a tiny bit just to get a little bit more high E string clearance. So the string isn't exactly parallel with the fingerboard. There's a little, you can see there's a little bit extra on this side. And so it plays really well. There's more, you know, like there's more meat on this side and then it's a little less on this side. So, which is kind of how you want it. But if you were looking at it and you thought, oh, the strings aren't totally, totally centered on the neck, well, it's true, they're not. But playing wise, it makes no difference. You really have to look at it to notice it, but that's it. So let the buyer beware. I don't really have any other disclaimers on this guitar. I think it's super cool, and I'll try to get somebody to play it because it sounds great, and I can't really play it because I can't play 7-string. All right, that's it.